YouTube need to stop unsubscribing people and deleting their messages after being left on other people's accounts in regards to exposing the corruption of today's generation by speaking the truth, whether people like it or not. Otherwise, if you don't, we have connections too. Oh yeah, you can bet your bottom dollar on that one. We have connections too. And we're not afraid to speak up and reach out to them in regards to shutting the whole YouTube business down by attacking their servers with malware viruses, Trojan viruses, and only God knows what else as a form of punishment and consequence for attacking those of us that expose the corruption day in, day out by speaking the truth. I'm not one for turning the other cheek and, oh, but you must forgive and all of this nonsense. No. If you're going to try and silence those of us from speaking the truth by exposing the corruption, you can bet your bottom dollar we're going to clap back. The shield of armour is on, or better yet, the shield of faith is at hand, the sword of the Spirit is actually sharpened. We've got the full body armour of God on, and we're waiting. We're ready. So to those of you that run this YouTube business, if you know what's good for you, you'll stop what you're doing. That's not a threat, it's a promise. You will stop what you're doing. Otherwise, we're going to ramp things up, and we're going to take the law into our own hands. We're going to reach Hackers Anonymous, and we're going to use them in order to shut you down with the antiviruses, malwares. Let's see how above the law you think you are then. Or better yet, let's see how above God's throne and Christ's throne you think you are then when you lose everything. It's going to be the same crying, begging and pleading for us to stop what we're doing, rather than holding yourselves accountable and responsible for your actions. This has been going on for as long as I can remember, and it needs to stop. It needs to stop because nonsense, lies, deceit, along with villainy, is getting praised left, right and centre. It's getting worship. It's getting all propped up, as you will. It's given advantages within pays and only God knows what else, while it attacks those of us that expose it, bringing light on the matter. And that's not right. It's not right. And I believe in the motto, or better yet, I believe in the saying, an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth. If you're going to be fast enough to try and silence those of us from speaking up, if you're going to try so desperately hard to attack those of us that have nothing but good intentions, biblical intentions, then we are going to revert to using the same law that these hierarchical structures use in regards to shutting each and every one of these businesses down that deny the gospel. Let's see how high and almighty you are then. Because you're the same. And I know this to be true. Each and every one of you cried, you begged, you plead unto God when the great flood was in the middle of happening for him to stop what he was doing. And he continued, regardless to your pleas. People don't listen. They're adamant in leaning upon their own understanding. And they treat those of us, like I said, that expose the corruption, that bring light onto the matter. They attack us. They try to silence us. They try to virtually make our life a living hell What, just for some temporary fleeting high of excessive happiness and joy? That's weak-willed. That displays a weak-willed and a weak-mindseted person. They're not even real people, they're cowards. Because they're the same exact people, like I said, that project their own frustrations, their own pains, their own sufferings, their own beggings and their own tears and only God knows what else, just to try and avoid accountability and responsibility for their actions. Like I said, YouTube, and this goes for anyone that run these businesses, Facebook included. If you know what's good for you, you'll stop what you're doing, you'll hold yourselves accountable and responsible for your actions. Otherwise, we are going to take the law into our own hand. We are going to contact the Hackers Anonymous, and we're going to shut each and every one of your businesses down. We're going to lead you plummeting into liquidation as a form of punishment and consequence to your actions, that what God gives he can take away. That's not a threat, it is a promise, and I'm beginning to see it as all the more clearer by the days even. It needs to stop. I'm telling you, it needs to stop. It's causing nothing but division and strife, and it's also causing frictions on the connections of those of us that actually have the balls to expose this corruption, shed light on the matter, as well as share the gospel, while those that attack us live in this fantasy land of excessive laughter and joy, thinking they're actually winning, doing what they do, only to be the ones crying later on when bad shit happens within their lives as a form of punishment and consequence. What did each and every one of you think was going to happen? What? That you thought you were going to get away with your degenerative acts committed against us? That's what God wants the young and naive to think. He even gives you a little time frame to think you're actually in fact getting away with your degenerative scumbag acts. That's what God wants each and every one of you to think. And then out of nowhere, when you least expect it, off with your heads. I've seen it far too many times to know what I'm talking about. And this is only going to spiral furthermore out of control. And it's only going to speed up the great collapse that's happening now as we speak. And those that are going to be affected the most are those that are actually in fact dumb enough, brain dead enough, to actually support it all, praise it all, prop it up and elevate it, by thinking that attacking those of us that expose it, as well as those of us that share the gospel, is actually in fact going to gain them victories along with blessings, fruits and rewards later on, only to be left with the hard, bittersweet, uncomfortable truth that so many people try to fight, and they're going to be left facing reality for what it really is. So YouTube, wake up and quit what you're doing. Otherwise, we are going to stand up as one. We are going to use the law. We're going to take the law into our own hands. We're going to escalate the whole matter. And if we have to, like I said, we'll get Hackers Anonymous to join us. We'll get them to spread malware along with Trojan horses and any other viruses on your servers, and we'll have each and every one of your platforms shut down one by one up to the point where the damage is too severe. There's no bouncing back from that, thus ultimately plummeting each and every one of you into liquidation as a form of punishment and consequence. You don't attack those of us that expose corruption You don't attack those of us that share the gospel and then expect us to basically be okay with that. You're delusional. You're narcissists even. You're young and naive. You have no clue. It is what it is. And let this be a life lesson onto anyone that feel the need to attack us on the regular. That whatever you dish out onto us will eventually make its way back around onto those involved via the punishments and consequences to their actions. And we tried warning people, but they didn't want to listen. They were so adamant in leaning upon their own understanding. They knew best. And let's see how that really works out in their favour. When they go, like I said, when they all go into liquidation and, their true colours begin to show. When we literally deny them the privilege of bailing them out of their own mess that they get themselves into for not listening in the first place. Punishments and consequences, they're there for a reason, people. And trust me, they're going to catch up to each and every one of you involved, and they're going to hit you like a freight train. You're not going to be so smug, you're not going to be so slick, nor high and almighty then. It is what it is.